Hello, Piney sixth graders, and good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on when you're watching this. Wanted to give you a little coaching on setting up your graphs for your science assignment. That's the thing I've gotten the most questions about. They've been good questions. Sometimes it's easier to show you than just type it out in an email, so I thought for our first video that'd be a great thing to do. So, first thing, here's your science assignment. Whether you got it digitally or paper, should say the same thing up top. And it says, hello, Piney sixth graders. Here is how I would recommend you go about completing your science assignments. First, take the weather information for your weather journals every day like we have in class. Don't use your MySci journals. I gave you new charts in this packet. So if you haven't started on this yet, folks, this you need to get started on because you can't really rush and make this up all at the end. There's a little bit to do every day, maybe 5 minutes worth of work total on this, but you have to do it every day. So if you haven't gotten started, go ahead and get started. Okay. I filled out some sample data for 2 of the 3 things that I said you could graph. Okay. So I didn't fill in the whole thing. And also please note your data will be different than mine. This is just sample data. Okay. So we have temperature, right, going across here. And we have wind speed going across here. I'm going to coach you into how to set up these graphs. Okay, please note your data might be different and you may want to make a different decision than me. All right, so first thing, let's set up wind speed here. So I notice my values. I have values like 8, 3, 12, and 9 for wind speed. Yours will probably be somewhere in that range too. Okay, so I go to the graphing paper that I gave you. And what I did is I made the decision to start counting up by 1. So I've started at 0, and with wind speed, you definitely want to start with 0. There may be days the wind is so calm that it registers at a 0. So I went 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to what is my current top data point, 13. But notice it does leave me some room if there is a day that it's windier. Okay, if you think we may have a really windy day, a wind speed above 20 miles an hour or so, you may want to count by 2s, especially if you've been taking your data in the afternoon when it tends to be windier. You may get a day where the wind speed is high enough that if you count by 1s, you may not make it. So it's your call. Because my data is typical of what you'd see in the mornings, and in the mornings it's going to be calmer. Same goes with the evenings. I think counting by 1s will be just fine. Okay, so here is our setup. Let me show you how this graph will work. All right, so let me go back to my chart here, and I notice on day 1, 8 miles per hour for the wind. Okay, so what I'm going to do is find day 1 on my x-axis, because it goes across the bottom. I'll count up to 8, and I can't mark on this with a pencil in the air, so you'll have to bear with me for a moment. And I will put a dot right there. Folks, I would definitely use pencil. Graphing is very easy to make mistakes. This is actually the second version of this video I did because I put a dot in the wrong spot on the first one. So very easy to make mistakes. I would use pencil, okay? Or maybe if all you got is pens or markers, triple check before you make that dot. So day 1, 8 miles per hour for wind speed. Okay, so let's go back and see what day 2 was. 3 miles per hour, pretty calm. So I go to my day 2 spot on the x-axis and I count up 1, 2, 3, boop, and that's where my dot will go. Okay, so we saw a real dip in wind speed, and that's a perfect thing, guys. I accidentally just put the dot on day 3. I would definitely graph in pencil, easily fixed with an eraser. Okay, so there's our first 2 days. You'll keep going. Every day you take the data, you'll get data points. As for connecting the dots, I know Mr. Cleveland has told you in math, and he's right, that in math you don't connect line graphs. Usually in science, you do. Okay, and you'll notice here that I said, please make sure to make line graphs. We don't want to make a bar graph. In science, whenever you can make a line graph, that's what we really want to go for. Okay, so we'll make line graphs, and they'll look good. I'm already getting comments and questions from folks from things that are looking pretty good, so that's great. Now, temperature. The folks who have emailed me have said they, and it's only been 1 or 2 about this, have been taking data in Fahrenheit, and that is okay. Notice on the data table I said you could use either Celsius or Fahrenheit. It's actually going to be a little easier to graph in Celsius. There's just the degree changes or the scale will be a little easier. But Fahrenheit, no big deal. And since that seems to be what most people have done, that's what I've done here for my sample. Okay, so we'll set up a sample graph, and it shows you why you have to think when you're setting up your own graph. So first, let's look at my values. They'll be pretty close to the values that you've got. Okay, 51 degrees Fahrenheit on day 1, 60 degrees Fahrenheit on day 2, 42 degrees on day 3, and 39 degrees on day 4. So my values go up as high as 60, and they are as low as 39. Okay, we're probably not going to see any temperatures as low as 0 in April now. But it's a good practice if you can start at 0. There's just a lot of ways you can go wrong if you don't start at 0. So we'll start our graphs at 0. That's what I would recommend. Okay, and we will want to leave ourselves a little bit of room outside that range. So please, 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 for your second graph, use this other beautiful blank piece of graph paper. Don't try to put them both on the same graph. They're going to use totally different scales, different units, everything would not work well. Okay, so it's actually projected to get up into the 80s next week. So especially if you take the temperature in the afternoons, it's going to be warm. We'll like that. Okay, but what that means is you got to leave room on your scale for things to get higher. So as I'm looking at this, I'm thinking 5s. That's my gut call. I am going to start it at 0. And let's see if I go 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, 65, 70, 75. Okay, I could get to 80 degrees and still have some room to spare. So to me, 5s would be a great unit to count up by on our y-axis. If you're going by Celsius, 2s would be great. Because each degree in Celsius is a bigger chunk. Like here's a degree in Fahrenheit. Here's a degree in Celsius. So those degrees just have a bigger spread. So if you went up by 2s, if you're doing Celsius, that's what I would recommend. Okay, so let me count up real fast. Can't do this while I hold it up. So we have 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. Please make sure you remember to put your numbers on the lines, not on the spaces, right? Those lines are where you write the values. So for right now, I just went up as high as 60 because that's as high as my data goes. There it is. But if it gets warmer, which it's probably going to, I got room to spare. Didn't box myself in. Okay, so let's look at my data for the first couple of days. Okay, first day, 51 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, so on, oops, that's the other graph. On day 1, okay, 51 degrees is what I'm looking for. So here's the 50 degree mark. And if there's 5 degrees between 50 and 55, that means my mark for day 1 should be just above the 50. It'd be like 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55. Okay, so day 1, 51 degrees. Let's see what my data was for day 2. All right, it says 60 degrees. Well, that'll be easy because it should be right on a line. Okay, so for day 2, which is right here, okay, along my x-axis, for day 2, I would mark right there. So let me put that down and do that. Okay, and so there's 2 days worth of data, and I would just keep going, and since it got colder, I would likely see a dip on day 3 and 4. Okay, just don't want to use up too much of your time watching this video. I hope with 2 points it gives you the idea. Now, guys, you don't need to worry about titles yet. I will throw that into the next video. We're going to talk about how to label your axes, like your x-axis and your y-axis, and also put a title on the graph. You don't need to sweat that right now. You actually, truthfully, don't even need to be doing this yet. What I really encourage you to do, because it's just going to be a pain to have to try to find a website that stores this data, look up history, start on this if you haven't yet. Okay, good stuff. So what'll be coming at you next time? All right, next time I will show you an example of the projects, okay, that are described down here. Fun STEM projects where you get to build weather instruments, things to tell wind speed, wind direction, okay, even things like thermometers, And the thermometers work okay. You're not going to be able to tell that it's exactly 62 degrees. But I've had several people email me fun photos of weather instruments you've already made. Shout out to those people. Okay, please make sure you're doing that, and don't be afraid to use different stuff. For example, I didn't have one of the materials that they called for with the instrument that I made, so I swapped in a yogurt container. We just were done. I rinsed it out, soaked it out, and it worked great. So don't be afraid to swap out materials. Last but not least, kind of a fun thing that I think we can do. You are going to get to choose which tie I wear in the next video. Okay, kind of give some user input there. I'm just in a bow tie mood. I wore a regular tie today, so we'll switch it up. So we have three choices. Okay, we have my hand-tied bow tie, right? Pretty stylish, in navy blue with yellow. Okay, we have the maroon bow tie, and we have the gold bow tie with some texture. So I will tally the votes in the comments. Okay, so leave a comment if you have an opinion. We've got navy blue, we've got maroon, and we've got gold. I'll wear whichever one wins. Okay, and that next video will be coming at you on Monday. Again, advice on how to title the graphs and label the axes, and advice on how to complete those projects. Really want those projects to be fun. If it feels stressful, you're not doing it right. Really look for a chance to have fun with it, swap out materials, even go online and look at other people's designs and try those if you like those more than what's in the packet. All right, looking forward to hearing from some of you. Again, leave your vote about the bow tie in the comments. I'll tally them, and that's what I'll be wearing next time. We really miss you guys. Hopefully, these assignments are working out okay, but we know that it's a little stressful for you guys to not be able to see us and ask questions in person. So I'll be flexible and shoot me any of those questions via email. More than happy to answer those. All right, hope y'all are having a good day, and until next time, see ya.